Dozens of people are reported dead in Syria.
الإرهابيون القتلة يستخدمون أبواقهم لإعلان
images that have stunned the world.
قاطعا استخدام أي مواد كيميائية أو سامة.
I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons.
These heinous actions by the Assad regime cannot be tolerated.
Back in 2007, during the early days of the Listening Post and the heady days of the blogosphere, we interviewed Hossein Derakhshan, who was known as the Iranian blogfather. As a dual Iranian-Canadian citizen, Derakhshan was blogging from outside the country and saying the kinds of things on politics that Iranians would rarely see in the country's government-approved media outlets. He was widely read, influential. He then returned to Tehran, kept writing, and was sentenced to almost 20 years in prison for his activities online. Derakhshan was pardoned in 2014, and he emerged from prison to discover that the internet had, during his time behind bars, become a quite different place. Gone was what he saw as the open web, a decentralized space that led web users to a variety of opinions, including reformist voices in Iran, operating in the blogosphere. It had been replaced with social media as the primary hub, platforms like Facebook and others producing something that he says looks more like television, much more focused on images than text, built around the things that we like and approve of rather than the things that people need to know. And just like TV, the social web is more entertaining than it is educational. Now, they may sound like the conclusions of someone nostalgic for the good old days, someone who's a little older, maybe a bit grumpier. But given Hossein Derakhshan's experience, it's a perspective worth listening to. We sat down with him last week at the International Journalism Festival in Perugia, Italy, to discuss the demise of the blogosphere, what has replaced it, and the current state of freedom of expression in Iran. Hossein Derakhshan, thanks for joining us today at the Listening Post.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with a quote of yours. The decline of the web in favor of social media entails grim consequences. What do you mean by that?
I think we're talking about a shift, a very serious shift that started from the West because of the new technologies, and then I think it's expanding around the world, which is about the dominance of visuals, especially pictures and videos, and the fact that they're replacing typography in many ways. When the internet emerged, it was text-centered. It was a decentralized space. It was a very active sort of communication. It wasn't as passive as television. It was also very non-linear because you would always be able to browse things at the same time, and hyperlinks were at the center of this shift because hyperlinks enabled you to start from somewhere and end up somewhere completely different from where you started. And this is all gone now. You only get to see one mobile app like Facebook, and then you would only scroll. You don't click that much on the links, and you're not going to surprising places anymore. So this new space, which is built based on your habits, and based on popularity of things, because if you post something and it's not popular enough, it wouldn't be visible to your friends who are following you, is creating a space which is, I would argue, even worse than television. The decentralization, the linearity, and I think the most important thing, the diversity of voices is now gone with these specific kind of algorithms that dominate social networks.
So you were severely offline from 2008 to 2014.
Yes.
Had you not been in prison at that time, would that shift, which you saw when you came out in 2014 because you were equipped with a fresh pair of eyes, is that something that you think, had you been living in it, you would have even noticed?
I would have noticed it, but with less shock, probably.
Because it jumped out at you?
Yeah, because I was really shocked when I started a new blog after I was released and pardoned, because I was allowed to write again. And then I realized that without social networks, whatever you write outside these platforms wouldn't even be visible, because their algorithms prioritize and privilege native materials. So then I realized that that is exactly why blogosphere is a graveyard now, because all bloggers have gone through the same process of trying to promote things on social networks, and they've realized that this is not working very well, so they have actually moved what they've been writing.
When you came out of jail, you had a choice. You have Canadian citizenship,
Yes.
and Iranian citizenship. Most people who had just been jailed for 6 years would have left that country, I imagine, and never gone back. Why did you stay?
My family lives there, my home is there. Iran is a really interesting, vibrant place to be active there. And now that I'm allowed to write again and be active as a journalist and an author, why wouldn't I use that opportunity? The whole purpose of me coming back to Iran and face prison was to be able to work again, to live again in my country and to contribute positively.
But you have to watch very carefully what it is that you say. You cannot write with the same freedom that you wrote with before being imprisoned.
Yes, but then it's not as black and white as you would probably think from the outside. The range of topics that you can actually discuss has been constantly expanding. Things that now you see in print on Iranian newspapers is incomparable to 20 years ago, for example. That I remember people were jailed because of writing about them.
Some people would suggest that your newly tempered writings are a sign of maturity. I'm wondering, on the other hand, if this is more a change on the part of the authorities there. Do you have the impression that the Iranian government has a better understanding now of the way these media work and perhaps aren't quite as quick to act as they may have been 2006, 2008?
That's true. They've constantly improved in their understanding of media and its impact on society, especially since I think the foreign-based satellite televisions have started, the BBC Persian and others. They have grown really worried that if they keep the internal space too closed and too limited, then people wouldn't watch or wouldn't read or wouldn't trust anything that they see.
Because they have alternatives.
Yes.
Telegram, the messenger service, is a major player in Iran. Give me an idea of what goes on Telegram, how Iranians use it, and why it is that you think that the Iranian authorities tolerate it.
Telegram is not just a messenger. If anybody's familiar with it, they have a feature called channels, which is basically like a newsreader. You subscribe to separate channels, to different channels, and then you would be receiving whatever is posted on that channel. For instance, the BBC Persian has more than 700,000 subscribers to its channel. So it's much easier for people to get the news through these channels. Telegram in Iran has replaced email, it's replaced websites, and even many people who used to have blogs and who used to write blogs are finding Telegram an easier and more accessible tool for publishing. More than 60% of the whole bandwidth of the country is spent on Telegram. Then, because it was also very effective during the last parliament elections in Iran, and reformists used this as their most effective medium, some people within the system have grown worried about a possible effect of Telegram in the next elections. But the government is very resistant to the idea of blocking it. And I think they've been successful so far.
Oftentimes Iran is lumped in with other countries that are accused of being authoritarian. But on media, the Iranians do have a different approach to Facebook and Twitter, both of which are available, although filtered. The Chinese won't even let those companies onto their territory. Why does Iran allow things such as Facebook and Twitter, however filtered, when other governments such as China's do not?
Part of it is logistic, because it's not easy and it's very expensive to block the whole country from the outside internet. In order to do that, you would have to have a nationwide intranet, which is very expensive to make. And I'm sure there has been a very lively debate behind the scenes within the Iranian government. There are some people following the idea of having an intranet instead of in the internet. Fortunately, they have not won. It also shows this matureness that I'm speaking about, that they're not really afraid of random people or ordinary people discussing politics or even insulting things. Because when you have so much information, the visibility of every single piece of it would become much, much less. You wouldn't necessarily have to react to every single thing that you don't like as an authority.
If blogs, as you're saying, are virtually no more, and they used to call you the Iranian blog father, what term do you go by now?
I'm still writing, and I'm still blogging, but on a different platform, which is called Twitter, which was supposed to be a microblogging platform. But those blogs that we owned and we hosted on our own websites are all dead, and it's become a graveyard, unfortunately.
Microblog father doesn't really have the same ring to it, does it?
No.
Hossein Derakhshan, it is delightful to see you again. Thank you for talking to us at the Listening Post today.
Thank you for having me.